you have to make an effort for it to happen. It's like any other goal, right? If it's important to you, if it's a priority, stop putting it on the back burner, or else you're going to have those back burner types of relationships in your life.
Welcome to Love Stories, a relationship podcast for successful women, where we talk about love, dating, relationships, and how great love stories are made. Whether you're searching for the one, you're madly in love, or simply curious about romantic relationships, this podcast is for you. I'm Charlene Byars. Each week, you'll hear from women, couples, and experts, and all the ins and outs on how to create your own love story. I am so passionate about this subject, and I'm so excited to share all the things that you can apply to create a beautiful love story of your own. Cheers to great love. Well, hello. How is your week going? For me, it seems like everyone that I've been talking to this week is really struggling in what I call those needle-moving conversations, the ones that we need to have with our partners. And seriously, it truly felt like that has been the theme of the week. So that being said, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about those difficult conversations that we need to have with the people we love, because often we avoid them because we actually don't even know where to start, right? And then we have attempted to have that conversation and it really just doesn't seem to go anywhere. And you end up like feeling you're going around and around in circles. The person's just not understanding, or the person's getting triggered, defensive. So you go back, you go back to avoiding the conversation. Okay, so here's the deal. Learning how to communicate and having those difficult conversations, it's actually a skill set. Communicating, having conversation is what really helps you move the needle in a relationship and move forward. When you learn how to move forward through conversation, it actually gives you and your partner an opportunity to get closer with one another. Those difficult conversations is an opportunity to grow. Resolve, whatever needs to be resolved, because it's so important. So with that being said, okay, do you ever find yourself like in that spot, like needing to have a conversation about something that's important, but you're like not even knowing where to start because it might be a sensitive subject or like a trigger for your partner, and then you just totally get discouraged? Okay, so this is the deal. I'm really excited because I actually have this really amazing free gift. This gift is for you. I created How to Talk to Your Man. It's a conversation guide about how to have these difficult conversations. It's a step-by-step process to fully prepare you for any conversation that you want to have, because it really makes a difference how we communicate and how that person is able to understand what we're saying. Communication is a skill set, and any of us can learn this skill. And it's learning to be brave enough to have the conversation that really matters. Okay, so I'm going to leave the link in the show notes, and you will get immediate access to the guide, which will include, my go-to communication tips to prepare you, like for any conversation that you need to have. So just spend some time like on each one, and then, don't skip the steps. You will be amazed like how the right conversation will make all the difference. I am so excited to introduce my next guest. Oh, this is going to be such a treat. Brandan Rader is an award-winning psychological researcher, matchmaker, and a dating coach. He graduated cum laude with a master's degree in psychology and holds a professional certificates in interpersonal relationship meditation, matchmaking, community and behavioral health, human behavioral research. He has worked for universities, government agencies, and the private companies investigating first to date to divorce date. Brandan has honed his matchmaking skills with the industry leaders and has worked with the largest matchmaking companies in the US. He also consults with other matchmaking companies to help them refine the process, develop coaching programs, and generate millions in revenue. His academic foundation and professional experience has provided him with the understanding into the deepest workings of human nature. Brandan has been happily partnered going on 14 years, and his interests are working out, trying new restaurants, spa days, travel, road trips, movie, performing arts, and renovating properties. What I loved about this conversation that I had with Brandan is that, and there were so many, but how dedicated his life is to find out through the research that it takes for a person to be happy and how romantic relationships shape everything. With no further ado, Brandan Rader. Well, hello. Oh my goodness. Hi, Brandan. I was so excited to have you on the show. I mean, for so many reasons, so many reasons. And before I get, going and I start asking you all the questions, we're going to take a moment, because I'm going to slow this down because I know how I get a little excited. We're going to take a moment, and I would love for you, and I know I just introduced you and tell them how amazing you are, but I want to hear from you a little bit. I want to hear, who you are, and for our listeners, and kind of like, how did you get into this type of work that you're doing? And just a little bit of information on you. I would love to hear that. Hi.
Well, hello there. I'm so excited
Hi.
to be here. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me during the holiday frenzy. My path to becoming a leading matchmaker has been a little bit circuitous, but always with intention and direction. So, my background is originally in behavioral psychology, and I worked as a psychological researcher for many years, investigating how I describe it as first date to divorce date in the lab before I started testing out theories in the dating industry. But what a lot of people don't know is before I started researching interpersonal relationships, I actually was an award-winning researcher on habit formation. And I was very interested in understanding how do people take a goal and psychologically shift it into a lifestyle habit. And the reason why I wanted to understand this is because habits shape our life, right? It's our habits and our behaviors that determine what our lives look like and the trajectory of our lives. And ultimately, I want people to be the happiest and best versions of themselves, to live a fulfilled life. And I found during this stint of my research that our romantic relationships impact almost every aspect of our life. And
yes. Oh, wait a minute. First of all, can you just say that one more time? Because that is one of my favorite lines, because I believe that with all my heart. And I'm like so happy you just said that.
yeah,
And yeah, I mean, let's hear that one more time, and kind of like why you feel that way, like how what that means for people who are listening.
our romantic relationships impact every aspect of our life. It really is the most important decision and investment a person will ever make. And one of the reasons why I believe this is partly due to research. There was a study that I was working on, and they were investigating how when somebody is diagnosed with diabetes, was the chronic disease that they were researching. We investigated the success a person had in adopting new lifestyle behaviors. And what they found was that people who were in happy, healthy, and supportive relationships where the partner adopted these lifestyle behaviors and habits with them, they were more successful than the people who partners didn't. And so, of course, this trickles into every other aspect of our life. And so our partner can not only be a support system, but they can be determinants for whether or not we're successful in other areas. And so that's what inspired me to want to get involved in interpersonal relationships. I thought to myself, like, if I want people to live happy, healthy lives and to be the best versions of themselves and to lead fulfilled lives, then I need to help them address one of the most important components in that formula, which is having the right partner by their side.
Yes. Wow. Now that was awesome. Definitely. Oh my goodness. Again, thank you for saying that, because I truly believe, and this is what I say, who you pick to be your life partner will be one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make, because that decision alone will determine your overall happiness, because that's just going to shape all the other areas. And how we do certain things in certain areas, really affect us in the other area. And that's why I was so excited to have you on today, because I also just truly believe that, there's so many of us out there. Well, I found my man now, I'm married, but there's so many of us in general, because, we're here, we're meant to connect. We're meant to, have that type of connection, intimacy with another human being. And when we don't have that alignment and we don't have that connection, that things are just aligned with each other, I mean, life is hectic, right? Like it really gets crazy. So when you were doing, let's go back a little bit. So when you were doing the research based on how you're talking about with habits, what were the things that you did notice, how people change their habits in regards to how people try to find or were able to find someone that had an alignment with them? Was it were you in your research? Ladies, listen to this. This is going to be really fascinating what he's about to say. No pressure, but listen. How let's say, for an example, if you are listening right now and you're a single person and you are definitely have been looking for a while and you find yourself having a hard time finding that person, and you find yourself what I call it relational patterns. We get into these patterns, right? These relational patterns. What did you find in general in that research that you were doing?
Yeah. So one, I love the fact that you talk about relationship patterns. I call it a pattern ship.
Okay.
Right? It's where people fall into pattern ships, and sometimes they're healthy pattern ships and sometimes they're unhealthy pattern ships. But just like with a lifestyle goal, people need to get specific and very clear on what their goals are. And more importantly, they need to break it down into actionable and measurable steps. So we see this a lot during New Year's resolutions, where people will commit, say, for a couple of months, and then they they fall off the commitment train. And the reason is one, they create goals that are too abstract that they can't hold themselves accountable to, or they're unsustainable. I think that dieting is a really good metaphor for this, and just exercising and living a healthy lifestyle. So let's say that you make the broad goal, I want to be healthier in 2024. And you then need to say, well, what does healthier actually mean? Get specific. And healthier to you might be, I am going to exercise 5 days a week. And get even more specific. I am going to exercise at 8 a.m. Monday through Friday before I go into work. Now it becomes really actionable and measurable and clear, and you can hold yourself accountable. And then you need to identify any potential barriers that might prevent you from being able to execute this goal successfully, as many as possible. So you might say, I know that for me to be able to wake up and get ready and be at the gym by 8 a.m., that I need to go to bed by 9 p.m. every night so that I can do this. I also know that I'm somebody who tends to lag a little bit in the morning. So for me, it might be smart for me to make my protein shake the night before, to have my gym bag already packed and have it sitting next to my work briefcase. I know that I need to find the route that's going to have the least amount of traffic, right? All of these things that become excuses or barriers that can derail a person's trajectory. So now let's take the same metaphor and apply it to dating. A lot of people say, I'm opening myself up to love this year. I'm going to really be focusing on my relationships. I'm ready to find the right person.
Oh my goodness, is that what you hear too? Is that it right there? Is that kind of like
And it's like, okay, that's great. That's a really good broad goal, but
Yes.
tell me
Yes,
how
yes.
you are going to do this. What are
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Hold on. Let me pause you there. Let me pause you there. That's really good. Okay. Let's go here because we're talking to a seriously, ladies and gentlemen, a matchmaker guru. I mean, like when we're talking a researcher, like he is the bomb when it comes to research. Like deep dive, really figure this out. And so we just talked about how we put out there in the universe, we say certain things, right? So like exactly what you just said, we put it out in the universe, this is the year. And then you find yourself, and listen, this is not about, don't feel bad or anything like that. Like this is the majority of us. We do this. This is what we do. And this is why we have this show and this podcast, so we can learn, so we can, apply different things and shift different things. So listen to this. So what he was just explaining was how we often, and I'm going to raise my hand right here too, we say stuff in the universe of like, okay, this is the year I'm going to find love. I'm going to get my man. I'm ready, blah, blah, blah. Then you turn around and the year goes by and you're in the same position. Why? Let's talk about that.
Yes. The why is because you never talked about the how, you know, plan and how they're going to do this. And for my clients, I will say, look, I want you to have a designated date day per week. I want to know whether this is a Friday, a Saturday, Sunday, whatever it is. And I want you to come up with a day that this is a sacrosanct time. I want this to be a day and time that you can promise me almost that you are not going to have disruptions. Now, I know that life happens and sometimes it's outside of your control, but by and large, this needs to be a sacrosanct time for your designated date day. And this, by carving this time out on their calendar, they now have the when. And then we go into more of the how. So how are you going to fill that designated date day with romantic candidates? Let's break it down. Are you going to be working with a dating coach? Do you need to do a makeover? Do you need like a dating specific wardrobe for dates so that you can feel confident and also be dressed to attract your ideal type of person? Do you need to get on the online dating apps? Do you need to hire a matchmaker? What are the concrete steps that you need to take that will hold you accountable and get you to where you want to be? And
this is so wonderful you're saying this. Let me just, I know, I gotta interrupt you here because it's so wonderful you're saying this. We have to say this. We gotta hear this because often I also, I talk to women and I literally tell them, I'm not kidding you. They'll say, you know what? Yeah, if it's meant to be, I'll find him. And I'm like, I said, Mama, he ain't gonna knock on the door.
No.
It's just this way of thinking, right? Like, that's why I want you to continue on talking about this. It's that way of thinking of like, well, if it was meant to be, I can be anywhere and I'll just find him. I wanted you to hear this. There's so many women that have that type of thinking.
Absolutely. And I hear this a lot as well. And it's almost a spiritual bypassing, in the sense that people are using spirituality, whatever higher power they believe in, as an excuse to not take action. I don't have to do it because that powers that be will do it for me. It's lazy, it's passive, and you're not going to get where you want. And it's
Oh gosh, that's so good. That's so good. And I know you're saying that with love. Like seriously, you guys, it's true.
And I had a male client, right? Before he became a client, we were having conversations about him being a client, and he was approaching it almost with this spiritual bypassing where he's told me, I believe that God will present me with the right woman, or God, it's in the divine's hands. And not saying that I'm a gift from God, but
right. Well, yes, you are.
I told him, how do you know that it wasn't God or the higher powers that be that connected us? Maybe this is the means that God is presenting you, or the powers that be, to find your person. And he I will tell you, he signed up and he has now been dating a woman for a year and a half. So,
Oh,
and
fantastic.
yeah,
But that's so important that you're saying this because it's not just the fact. It's just like when you said when you did a research just based on habits and people making changes in their life. It really, like when we said earlier when we started this, like truly, when you are in a place in your life that you are looking for your life partner, you're looking for someone to spend life with, that is something that you have to really be intentional about. Like, that is so important to put the time and the energy and the effort into that, just as you do anything else. To be kind of like passive, like what you said, makes no sense, because I really believe that there is this laziness. You're not putting the time and the effort. And I like that you said earlier when you were talking about like what else are things that you need to do, because if you think, oh, I don't have to put any effort in it, and you're just going to show up just to show up, what do you think is going to start happening? What kind of people you think are going to start presenting? So talk more about that, about how we were just saying about being intentional and why that matters.
yes, well, you touched on an important point that I also want to bring up. And that's people not wanting to put themselves in the game, not wanting to really make that effort. I have found that it's a fear of failure and a fear of rejection. They are afraid to actually put some skin in the game because they're afraid that it won't work out. And it is that fear that is truly what is preventing them from actually making the effort to make it happen. And and I hear this all because, like, well, what if I do this? What if I hire a coach, or what if I hire a matchmaker, or what if I put myself through an online dating app? What if I put in all this work, all this effort, pour in all this time and energy and resources into this, and it still doesn't work? That is the fear that is preventing people from finding love. Because, like you and I have said, you have to make an effort for it to happen. It's like any other goal, right? If it's important to you, if it's a priority, stop putting it on the back burner, or else you're going to have those back burner types of relationships in your life. So if you want this to be the main entree, you want that love to be the main meal in your life, and you're tired of being a side dish or on the back burner, then you need to make the effort and make it a priority. And like I said, designated date days are a great step. Like saying, I'm going to work to have a date with somebody every Friday. Now, this can be a new romantic candidate every Friday, or it could be the same romantic candidate if you've identified that they have potential. And another step that people should be making is putting themselves in the right environments. So you don't have to do online dating. You don't have to work with a matchmaker. But if you're not utilizing these two methods, then the only other method left is to meet somebody out in the wild, out and about in your everyday life. And so there's an approach that I talk about with my clients called strategic locations. And
Oh, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Ooh, did you hear that? He has some strategic locations. Yes.
And the
Okay.
beauty of a strategic location is it integrates your everyday activities. Because again, part of the reason why people fail in achieving goals is because it's unsustainable. So don't pick a location or a venue, like, let's say I'm going to go out to a singles event every week, because there might not be singles events going on every week. So you're setting yourself up for failure. So you pick a strategic location. It's something that you already do or can integrate into your everyday schedule. Let's say it's going to the gym. So let's say you work out already 5 days a week and you're like, you know what? I want to meet somebody at the gym. Now, it's strategic for many reasons. One, if you're meeting somebody at the gym, you already know that one of their values align with yours, living a healthy lifestyle and exercise. But you need to take it a step further, and you need to make sure that gym location attracts the type of patrons that you would potentially want to date. So if let's say that you're wanting to date someone who is business oriented, then you might need to commute an extra 20 minutes to your gym to go to the gym in the business district. Then get even more strategic. The gym attracts different types of people at different times of day. Like most people who are busy professionals are usually going early in the morning or around 5 p.m., right? Before the workday starts or after the workday starts. So if that's the type of person you're looking for, go to the gym in the business district and then pay attention to times. And then also the days that people go different times of days. So let's say you're like, I've been going on Mondays and Wednesdays, but I haven't seen somebody that really caught my eye. Up to Tuesdays and Thursdays. And you have to play around with it a little bit till you make it a fully strategic location. Then once you've identified a place that attracts the type of people that you might be romantically interested in, then you frequent it regularly, putting yourself in an environment where you're surrounding yourself with potential romantic candidates for it to
100%. Yes, yes, yes. That is fantastic because that is so true. That's one thing that we talk about all the time is if when you hear the people like, I don't want to do online dating, which I have such a different outlook on that and a different perspective on that. I really feel that online dating is a tool, but I get it. Some people are like, I don't want to do it. I'm like, okay, we have some mindset work to do here. But let's say, okay, you just kind of want to just see what's out there. I love that you're talking about this because one thing I'm always talking about is proximity. Like you have to put yourself, because think about it. Like, you know how we talked about, oh, okay, I'm just going to meet someone out in the wild. I'm going to be out one day and just meet someone. Is that possible? Duh. Yeah, of course. Is it most likely that's what's going to happen to you? No, most likely it's not going to happen, right? You're not going to find your person like that. Can you? Well, we're talking, yes, but we're talking today for the majority of us, right? Like the majority of us. And if you are just going, thank you for saying that too, because if you're just going to a place one time, you're just going there, okay, there's not proximity. Like we need to see you on a regular basis to start getting that energy to literally allow even like the man to start smelling you out, ladies. Like really, like having that, like talk about that, right? Like you got to get yourself out there in places. I love that you even said that. That was a great tip. So if you're like, okay, well, I'm going to the gym and I'm not finding what I like. Well, did you not just hear what he said? That was excellent. If that gym is not working, it could be the time of the day. It could be the type of, you put some research into this.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Keep going.
Well, and like we talked about, like you mentioned the mindset trap, right? There's oftentimes mindset traps. So when I hear people say all the good ones are taken, or I never meet like attractive singles or people that I would want to date, or there's nobody out there, or I don't encounter. Well, sure. I'm like, that's because you're clearly stuck in a routine or a pattern that's not working for you, including locations. So yeah, if you're going about your same old day, same old routine, and that has not produced the romantic candidates, then you need to switch something up. And to the point, you have to do research to find out what types of environments do you need to be putting yourself in to increase the likeliness of meeting somebody during your everyday activities in real life. Now, if that's unrealistic, I encounter this a lot with matchmaking clients where they are busy professionals. They really don't have the time. Like, I just don't have the time or energy to really invest in, driving an extra 20 to 30 minutes to another gym. In which case I'm like, okay, are you using online dating? If they don't want to do online dating, then I say, okay, matchmaking it is, because you just eliminated the only other two ways to meet somebody. And so that's why a lot of people do choose to work with matchmakers. But even so, they still need to take the steps to make sure that they are priming themselves to be relationship ready. So I still encourage them to have their designated date day. And I still give them action items. Like, let's say that somebody tells me, I'm ready to open myself up to love. I ask them, how? How are you going to do that? And it might be something as simple as, I am going to give a compliment to everybody on a date. Because for me, that feels vulnerable to give somebody a compliment. And I feel like that only opens up my ability to give and receive love through words of affirmation. And that becomes an action item for them. I'm like, great, on every date, regardless of whether you're attracted to this person or you plan on pursuing them in subsequent dates, I want you to execute that measurable action item of giving a compliment on every date, because that's only going to work to open you up to love.
Yes. Yes, that's fantastic. Oh, I love that. And what would you say? Let me ask you this question. This is really cool. If someone's listening right now and they're like, okay, I'm noticing that, I do have that type of mindset thinking, maybe they'll just show up, or if it's meant to be, I don't have to put so much effort in. Or let's take it another layer for the majority of the women, and not just women, men, just us in general, really having, like you talked about earlier, fear. The fear. It's fear of rejection. It's fear of, what if it doesn't work out? What if they don't like me and I like them? What's something that you would recommend in the beginning, like something that they can just do immediately to help themselves with that fear, with that, understanding the rejection, because that does come with the territory. So what would you suggest? What would you say in regards to that?
I recommend the compliment, actually, because people who fear rejection oftentimes don't even like to give compliments to other people because worried that it's not going to be reciprocated or that the person's going to reject them. And so simply by giving somebody a compliment, and here's the key, it needs to be somebody that you find attractive. And so whether or not you're planning on trying to date this person, practicing giving somebody a compliment can, one, build up your confidence in being able to give compliments and essentially flirt with people that you find attractive, but it also helps you get over that fear of, what if they reject me? What if they're not interested in me? They're going to think I'm hitting on them by giving them a compliment. And then if they're single or they're taken or they're just not interested, then I'm going to be rejected. And to your point, rejection is just a part of dating. It's a self-selection process, and everybody's on the journey to find their ideal partner. And so by practicing just giving a compliment, it can build up that resilience and help you get over that fear of feeling rejected. I also think that if you're on social media, reaching out to message, just sliding into somebody's DMs, like just to kind of like practice getting over that fear of rejection. It doesn't even have to be asking them out. It could be, again, giving them a compliment. It could be asking them a question like, hey, I noticed that you went to this coffee shop. That coffee and bagel looked amazing. Where is this? Or would you recommend? Just trying to stir up some small talk with somebody that you find attractive can help you get over that anxiety and fear of rejection.
Oh, I love that. That's such a good point. That's such a good point. So it doesn't even have to be like you said. We're not talking, you have to ask somebody out or do any of that kind of stuff. We're literally saying keep it simple, be genuine, and compliment them on something that you enjoyed or you saw, or how they're dressed or whatever that is. Anything to break that ice. That's really cool. I love that. I actually really love that.
Farther, and this is something that I did when I was so. And actually, my cousin and I used to do this all the time, and we were teenagers, granted. Okay, so and this is a little bit old school too, so hopefully it doesn't date me too much. But we would go to the shop and we would have a contest on who could essentially get the most numbers at the mall. And so we would write our phone numbers on little scraps of paper and keep it in our pocket. And then we would go up and we would ask for people's phone numbers and approach them. And that was the goal, was to get somebody else's phone number. But if they said no and you were like, you know what, I still think they're cute anyways, here's my number. No, if you ever change your mind, here's my number. And we had our backup just in case we were rejected. We still were able to then say, I'm not going to take it personal. I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm still going to follow. Fine. Here's my number. You change your mind, reach out, because how you respond to rejection can be a determinant for what that person thinks about you. If you handle it poorly, they're going to be like, you know what? I dodged a bullet here. Because either if you respond negatively, they're going to think, wow, this person doesn't handle rejection very well. They get really angry or bitter or nasty. Or if you are really sad or bummed about it or seemed really deflated, wow, this person clearly doesn't have a lot of self-esteem or high confidence because they can't handle this rejection very well. That's also not the type of person you want to be involved with. When somebody handles rejection confidently, actually make them attractive, right?
It does. That's so true. It really
Right?
does. It's like, wow, you kind of look at them like, oh,
Okay,
okay.
maybe you
Hey.
another chance. And I used to call them the brave little toasters. And so like, yeah, like, you know what? That toast is a little bit burnt, but you know, it's okay. I liked how they responded to that burn that I gave them, and you know what? I might actually eat the toast anyways.
There you go. Well, you know what? Again, let's rejection. It's in fear. It's with everything, because like I'm a mother. Like I literally I have 5 kids. So I'm a mother of 5 kids. So I'm always telling them, I'm like, okay, how did you like? I want them to try different things and fail. And I'm like, seriously, do you think that you're gonna like try one thing and it's just gonna be like, ah, perfect? No. I said, oh, come on. I said, you got to keep trying the things. I said, every time you fail, I said, that's actually like amazing because you're getting yourself closer to where you want to go. And I want people to understand this too. And you could talk about this. Like, dating is an opportunity. What dating is all about. Dating is an opportunity to actually get to know that person and to see, if there's the alignment, to see if there is that connection, to see if the 2 people really do want to commit to one another. I think a lot of times, people look at dating as if like, oh, well, God, if I'm rejected or, oh, it didn't work out. No. That's the whole point. Not everyone you're going to be talking to or meeting is necessarily going to be the love of your life and your life partner for the rest of your life. The coolest thing is getting to know different people and enjoying that dating process. So when you talk to your clients and you talk about dating, I mean, how do you look at dating? Do you look at it like that? Like it is an opportunity, to get to know somebody? Or I think that's where, and I want to speak, for what I hear all the time. And I usually work with, women that are wanting to date, but they have this view of dating as if, it's going to be just that one person is going to be grand. And I'm like, no, that's not necessarily what dating's
No, I
about. So you want to
completely
talk about
agree.
that?
I tell people it's very rare to have a one and done. And so it is very much an exploratory process and a learning process. And people should use dating as an opportunity to learn about themselves and to grow, especially if they haven't been actively dating. And more importantly, they haven't been strategically dating, then they probably have a lot of things that they need to learn about themselves and a lot of improvement points to really prime themselves for their ideal partner. And so, one of the questions that I ask in my matchmaking interview is, if I introduce you to your ideal partner today, how might you unintentionally derail the relationship development? And I ask this question because I want to assess their level of self awareness. We all have thoughts, right? We all have them. The key is to be aware of them and know how to prevent them from screwing things up, essentially. And that's oftentimes learned through failure, through trial and error and dating, right? And so you might date somebody and you might realize, you know what, I was really jealous in that period and it didn't work out. It sabotaged our connection. And so now I know I need to work on my jealousy and understand where that comes from and how to prevent that messing things up. Because the last thing you would want to do is to meet your ideal person and you not be ready, because then you're going to screw it up. And I've encountered that too, where I have introduced 2 people and they weren't ready, right? They weren't in the right places for it. And they actually have a really cute story because they were head over heels for each other and they started to talk about building a life together and they got pretty far into the relationship development phase and then they called it
Mm-hmm.
a year later.
Why do you think they called it? What did you find out why they called it quits?
It was mainly the woman, and I don't like put the blame on all the women. I'm not that type of person, but in this case, it was the female, and she admitted it herself. And we had some, intense conversations together, and she revealed to me that she was very nitpicky. Right? She would criticize men, and part of that had to do with her career. She was a medical esthetician. And so part of her job is pointing out flaws and talking about how to fix it. But then also her marriage was filled with chronic disappointment, empty promises by her ex-husband. And so she got so used to having to criticize him and essentially, communicate with him negatively to try to get him to do things and follow through on his promises. And so she hit a point where she was so afraid of being disappointed and let down again that she just automatically went to criticizing and not allowing the man to do things in his own time because she was worried it wouldn't get done. And I told her, I'm like, you are allowing your former relationship to dictate how you're treating these men. I'm like, what have they given you any reason to believe that they're not going to follow through with what they say or their promises, or that they're not going to correct these behaviors or idiosyncrasies that you don't like on their own, just by simply saying, hey, I would prefer it if you did this, as opposed to criticizing them about it. And so that's what happened in this courtship. Was she just became highly critical, and he hit a point where he's like, I'm out. I just feel like I can't do anything right. I feel like I'm never going to be the type of guy you want. And, you're clearly not happy with me. So I don't feel like I'm the right guy for you. So they ended things, and she did some work on herself, and they reconnected a year later and they got married.
No.
Yeah. And they sent me a photo. They sent me a
Wow.
photo with them together, and she was showing me the ring, and she said, all I can say is sometimes it's about timing, and I wasn't ready when I met him, and I did some work, and I worked on the things that, that failure taught me what I needed to work on and what I needed to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that we talked about that too, because I think that's really important that we're going to say that is that a lot of times, like you said, you can actually have probably maybe even met someone that will be the true alignment for you, but you weren't able to clear what I call it love blocks, clear your love blocks. But she wasn't able to clear those love blocks, and she needed to. And I think the majority of us, come on, like there is all of us that can look inwards and do some work. And especially when it comes to romantic relationships, and really like, how are we showing up? Like, what are we doing? Because one of the things that I talk about often, and I'm like, listen, I said, so what are you looking for? What do you want to feel? How do you want to feel with a partner? Like, what are you looking for? Write it all down. Let's hear it. Let's see. And then I'm like, okay, are you that person? Are you that? That's what I tell someone. I say, so why don't you got to become that person first? So if you're looking for someone that is going to be, emotionally available, are you emotionally available? If you're looking for someone that is not going to be critical, are you critical? Are you, you know what I mean? Are you not critical? So it comes down to definitely taking some time. And that's beautiful that you said that. And she realized that there was work that we have to do. There are work and patterns that we have to do. And so when you, with that couple, which was amazing, ladies, and that's why I'm thinking like, this is the time, if you are single, to be able to talk to a professional, to get on the phone, with a relationship coach, to get on the phone with a matchmaker and start like finding out what is happening with you. Like where are you at? Like, what are the things that you need to work at before you go out and really get yourself available? I mean, I'm sure you talk to a lot, when people come and work with you, Brandan, they come and work with you and they're like, okay, like, is it like two different type of processes? You have some people that are like, okay, I'm looking, but maybe I'm not ready. Or some people are like, no, I did the work. I'm ready. What does it look like usually?
Yeah, it's both. Both come, and people will say, I'm ready to do the work, and I want love. And in which case, then we talk about, well, let's get you ready. What do you need to do to get ready to meet your ideal person? Some people will come to me and they say that they're ready, they've done the work, and they're ready to meet somebody. And that sometimes is correct. And sometimes then throughout the matchmaking process, we identify that there's those patterns that are unproductive. And maybe it's a blind spot, because we all have those psychological blind spots. So maybe they have done the majority of the work, but there's an area that hasn't been identified that they need to work on, or maybe they just haven't truly done the work. I think that a lot of people don't know how to do the work. And
Correct.
there's several.
Or where to start, right? Like kind of like where to start.
Yeah.
You feel that like, yeah,
Well,
okay.
and I think part of this is people think that they just need to listen to a podcast or read a book or go to a seminar, and then that's doing the work, or even just going to a therapy session and that's doing the work. But they need to know how to implement it. That's the key, right? I'm like, you can't, it's the equivalent of expecting to get fit by reading how to exercise. You have to actually read how to exercise, then you actually have to implement it and start exercising. I find that people stop at that first point. They read about it, they listen to it, they talk about it, but they don't actually do it. And it's those measurable actions that we were just talking about before, actually doing the work. And so I will talk about, when I'm talking to a client, I'll ask them, I'm like, well, what have you actually done to do the work? Don't just tell me you've done the work. Tell me about the steps you've actually taken. I want to know how you've implemented it, to make sure that they truly are ready, because I don't want someone to invest in matchmaking and them not actually be ready. And the other thing that I think, where people can go wrong when it comes to doing the work is there's almost shame or, about focusing on dating coaching and relationship coaching.
Right.
Like, people.
Why do you think that is? Tell me about that. Why do you think that is with them?
It's just insecurity is it's very personal, right? They take it as like almost like to that point of rejection. Like there's something wrong with me. And when really we don't teach these things, right? We don't tell people in school how to date. Most of our primary caregivers don't sit down and actually tell us how to approach relationships and dating in a healthy way. And we either learn through just observing our primary caregivers who also weren't taught how to do it. And so they adopted probably some unhealthy behaviors themselves and learned through trial and error. And so in which case you're observing trial and error and not knowing what doesn't work and potentially adopting unhealthy behaviors yourself. Or people learn from the entertainment industry, which conveys all of the worst, unhealthiest behaviors. And so I like to tell.
And there's a science to dating, you guys. Right. There really is.
Right. And it's one of those things that unfortunately people don't seek guidance or help until they've had a crash and burn situation, usually until they're going through a divorce. And I worked as a mediator for a couples counseling practice for many years. And this is where I collected a lot of my data on relationships. And I'll tell you, a lot of people never sought out services like that until they hit the point where they were in the process of dissolving their relationship or on the verge of. And then unfortunately, it was almost irreparable at that point.
Right. It was kind of the end.
And my hope was that they would then take these skills and apply it to their next relationship and it would be more productive. And I do experience this a lot in matchmaking, where people who are divorced and went through couples counseling or then sought out help from a coach because they went through a crash and burn in a negative situation. They then will tell me, these are the steps I've taken. This is the work I've done. And then they'll be able to tell me about it. I'm like, it's unfortunate that it had to be done because you were ending a relationship. I'm like, what if we taught these things beforehand, right? What if we teach people when they were, in their youth, how to date in a healthy way and how to have healthy relationship dynamics? We would have a much lower divorce rate. That's for sure.
We would. Well, that's what you and I are doing now. So good for us.
Yeah.
Because it's
embarrassment about it, right? Like I encounter
yes.
They're like, I don't need this. I don't need to work with a matchmaker. I don't need a dating coach. Or they think that they don't need to work on themselves or do these things because it should just happen naturally, right? Because it happens that's how it happens for everybody else. I'm like, no, it really doesn't. And it doesn't. And so I get it. It's personal. And to a certain degree, to admit that there's something that you need to work on, which could imply that there's a deficit or maybe something that needs to be improved on in yourself or the way you conduct yourself. But that's natural. It's normal. It's like wanting to get fit, right? It's like we're not born with a six pack. I mean, maybe some people are genetically blessed, but most people aren't.
Genetically, I know.
But to that point, they have to learn about it, and then they have to do the exercise and go through a growth period to get to their ideal peak physical shape. Same thing with jobs, right? We're not just born into a job for most of us, unless you're, in the days of the monarchs. Most have to learn, go to school, go to have actual technical training, and then have experience and learn to become experts in an industry.
Well, it's true. And when you're going out there and you're getting to know somebody and you're venting them and you're really, it is truly also, yes, you get to relax and get to know the person and have a good time. But we talked about being intentional. It is you're talking and meeting someone that can have the potential to be your partner for the rest of your life. There is no rush here. Come on. Like, seriously, we really have to be intentional here and understand how important it is, because anybody can date and meet someone and get in a relationship. Okay. That's not the work that we do. That is not the work that we do. We find people that are really looking for their actual partner, like someone that they can rely on, someone that they can do life with, their person. And that is intentional. So if someone's listening here right now and they're noticing that they some of the things that we've been talking about, they're noticing that they do have that type of mindset, like, yeah, okay, maybe I do need to get out there a little more, or maybe I need to like rethink, dating apps and rethink maybe hiring a coach or hiring a matchmaker, in anything in that respect, right? Like, what would be your advice in why just go for it? Like, just do it. Because if I feel like if someone is been struggling in this area for so long, to me, what I would say, it's a gift. It's an actual gift to yourself. What would you say about that? If they're listening right now and they're on the fence.
Yes,
because we're not just about trying to get you guys to go like hire us or anything like that. That's not what we're about. We're really here to help. And of course, if you guys want to work with the best, call us up. But that's not what's happening. That's not what we're talking about. We really do want for you to have that partner that you can, share that all the juiciness, life with, all the things. But you got to get out of your own way, ladies. Like, you really got to get out of your own way. And that's actually okay. And I'm saying that with love. I'm sorry. I wanted you to take over
I
there.
love everything you said. And back to one of our first points, this is the most important investment you will ever make. So if somebody's on the fence, I'm like, look, you need to invest in your love life if you want a phenomenal love life. Just like anything else in life. If you want something amazing, if you want something to grow, if you want something that lasts for a long time, you need to invest in it. And the same thing goes for love. If you're not ready to invest in it, you're not ready for love.
Yeah, I agree, because ladies, we're talking about that. Like, that is true. And especially like if you're like, okay, maybe you already been married before and it's not your first rodeo and things didn't work out. Why put yourself in a position again that you have to take it and chance it? Like, why are we chancing it? Why aren't we putting ourselves in positions and doing things differently? Because if something didn't work out before and you're doing the same thing that you've done before, then you're going to get the same results that you've had. It's just what it is. That's just how it goes down. So you got to do things differently. And I want to tell you something. Love is available for all of us. It really is. And sometimes the love that I'm talking about, I'm not talking about just getting yourself in a relationship like, anybody can do that. No, I'm talking about let's get yourself in a relationship that thrives, that's loving, that's kind, that's sexy, that's passionate, that grows, that you and your partner, like, seriously, do life together. These are what we're talking about. This is the type of relationship I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's the kind of relationship everybody dreams about. And again, unfortunately, we just live in a culture where I think people are dating passively and they are afraid of rejection. They're afraid to invest because they're afraid of failure. And so we just have a lot of people who are wandering aimlessly, waiting for love to happen. And they're just not willing to take the risk and make the investment that they need to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So ladies, listen up. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen for yourself. Like, this is a new year, a new time, it's okay. It's actually okay to do that. It's okay to invest. Just like when we invest in anything else, like he was saying earlier, anything else that is valuable to us. This is what I'm talking about. Okay. And in the meantime, if you're still on the fence, listen up. If you're still on the fence, one thing that you can do immediately is just put yourself out there. Like, right? Open up. Like, open up the way that you're doing things. If you've been doing things a certain way, find, like he was talking about earlier, a place that you can go on a regular basis so you can have some proximity and kind of smell and see if you're feeling anything there, and start putting yourself and getting yourself available. What else would you recommend that if they're listening right now that they can just start doing also and just apply into their lives?
Yeah, one thing I want to say is about making it happen is they call it making love for a reason, right? Make love, to make love, you got to make love happen. And so there's a reason why they call it making love, because you got to make it. And so
Yeah.
that said, how you can make love happen now is by putting yourself out there, like we talked about, strategic locations. Also, put yourself out online. Like if you don't want to do the dating apps, fine. You know what? Social media platforms are actually an even better place to meet people because they're usually have a larger database, larger networks. They have more information about the people. It's much easier to do digging on social media profiles than it is online dating profiles. And you also can get a better sense of what somebody is like what their vibe is like. Oftentimes on online dating profiles, you get a handful of photos and it doesn't really tell you, what the person's vibe is like, but you can do that on online dating platforms. And I find that a lot of people are hesitant to do this because for some reason they think that social media platforms shouldn't be used for dating, but dating is socializing. Social media platforms are for socializing, and dating and courting is socializing. And so if you don't have it on your profile, put your relationship status. If you're, whether it's on Facebook, mark that you're single. If it's on Instagram, put it in little bio, and if you're on LinkedIn, I know that place is definitely designated more for professionals, but there's still ways for you to advertise that you're single and seeking in ways that are acceptable, even on a professional platform. For example, let's say that you are a real estate agent and you're wanting to post about a property, and you could be funny and cute about it and be like, hey, this is the perfect house for that single gentleman or for that single lady. Trust me, I'm single, so I know I would buy it if I right? It's a cute way to really insert in there that in a professional way that, hey, you're single, and then maybe some that house and they're like, ooh, I don't know if I want the house, but I want you. So both showing, where they are. And so I think social media is one of the best places that you really can connect with a large amount of people, and then also have that ability to vet beforehand more than you could if you met somebody out during your everyday activities or even on a dating app.
Nice. Oh, there you go, ladies. Okay, change those profiles. Like, seriously, if you're single and you're available, then, you gotta let people know, because they're not gonna knock on your door. They're not gonna just come knock on your door.
So many people are undercover singles, right? Like they don't date it because, again, it's like there's almost like this shame around it. And so I recognize this a lot on people's, because as a matchmaker, I'm often recruiting people through social media channels. And so I'm always looking for their relationship status. And I'm like, you know what? There's not a lot of photos on here of them. All the photos that I do see are either of them with friends or family members. There's nothing of them that's kind of sexy or attractive. And then I'm like, I can't, on their relationship status, I don't see it on their relationship status. I'm like, I can't tell if they're single or not. And so the matchmaker, I'll reach out and say like, hey, I don't know if you're single, but if you are, I might have some matches for you. I might be able to introduce you to high caliber clients. But I'm sitting there thinking, then a lot of people will respond, oh, I am single. And I'm like, yeah, and this is one of the reasons why, because it's not clear that you're single, and therefore you don't have people reaching out and trying to court you. And so if you really do want to be intentional about dating, don't be an undercover single. Tell people that you're single and seeking, so that there's no doubt
I love that. I love that. You don't need to be undercover. Wear it. Be proud. I'm a single lady. I'm a single man. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, seriously, that's pretty amazing. I love that. Oh my goodness, was this fantastic? Okay, so how can they get a hold of you? How can they get into your world? Because I know that you do all kinds of stuff. You're a matchmaker, so I know that you work with people that can be on your database, or you work with people that can, sign up to be, work with you. So just how do they find you?
Yeah. One of the best places to connect with me where I am most active is on Instagram at Brandan Rader Official. My handle is right there on the bottom left of the screen. And for those of you who maybe aren't watching the video, it's Brandan Official. And you can send me a DM if you have any questions, or if you want to know how to connect with me further about any services or being a candidate in my database. Or also in my bio, there is a bio link. It's called a Beacons link. You can click on there and it has my website address, which is just brandanrader.com. There's links to apply to be a client, to be a candidate. And it really just is the best way to connect with me and see what I have going on in my world.
Oh, I love it. Ladies, seriously, gentlemen, ladies, listen. You got to follow him. You got to check him out because he's the real deal. He's amazing. He's the guru when it comes to matchmaking. I'm telling you. And the research, we didn't even scratch the surface there. So I'm just so excited. Thank you so much. I know I can have you on. We were going to talk about all the details, but that was amazing and it was so valuable and I really appreciate it. And I love the work that you're doing. And I'm so appreciative that you were on today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure as always. And your audience is very lucky to have you as their guide through dating and relationships.
Thank you. Fantastic. I love it. All right. Well, okay. Until next time, thank you for listening and cheers to great love. That's a wrap. Wasn't that amazing? Oh, seriously, how Brandan dedicated his life to find out through research what it takes for a person to be happy and how our romantic relationships shape everything. So true. He was just a wealth of knowledge and so cool. If you're loving this podcast and these incredible conversations, please hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. Don't miss an episode because each week I'll be bringing on guests and experts who share their knowledge about love, dating, and relationships so you can apply it into your own life. I'll see you next week. And until then, cheers to great love.